Rev up your engines!
Thomas Nutt said, greetings from Australia. I got a 2015 Kia Forte with 190,000 kilometers. It has a so-called lifetime tranny fluid. Should I change it or leave it alone? All right. I would have changed every 30, 40,000 miles myself. Now, if you haven't done anything and you haven't changed it yet, I would say leave it alone because you might change it and it starts to slip. Now, they call it a lifetime fluid because they said it's good for the lifetime of the transmission. Well, ask them what the warranty of the transmission. You're long past the warranty, so if it breaks, they don't care. All fluid gets dirty. All fluid wears out over time, and it's a good idea to change it in those Kias. I'd change it every 30 or 40 if I owned one. But if you have done nothing and it works okay now, I would just leave it alone because changing it can make it slip. It can happen if it's never ever been changed. Alex Johnson, Scotty, I got a 2016 5.7 V8 Dodge Challenger. I bought it used, has under 28,000 miles, but I noticed sometimes I brake. There's a high-pitched squealing sign. Should I be worried? Brakes? You don't have very many miles on it. It's a 6-year-old car. It's only got 28,000 miles. Brake rotors are solid steel. They rust. Take all your tires off and look at them. If the brake pads are still thick, if they're thinner than a dime, you need new brake pads. But if they're still thick, it's just because the rotors are somewhat rust. It doesn't mean anything. But if you don't like the noise, my advice is put on these Japanese pads. It's a company called Akebono. And if they make the pads for that car, put Akebono pads on. They're ceramic. They last a long time, but they're super quiet and they won't make any noise. Even if your rotors are slightly worn, they still won't make any noise. Akebono, if the noise bothers you. Well, Got Family says, Scotty, what's your favorite car? My favorite car is a car that has nice shiny paint, gets good gas mileage, and never breaks when it takes me wherever I'm going. When I was young, it was faster cars, but now, no. My wife's favorite car is her Lexus. It's 20 years old, but it runs like a top. It looks great, gets decent gas mileage. You know, I like the Toyota Matrix better because it gets a lot better gas mileage. You can fit a lot of crap in it when I move from here to there, back and forth. So, but that's what I go by. I go by practicality in cars these days. I'm not, even with my motorcycles, I was always a speed demon. I had really fast English motorcycles back in the day when they made the fastest motorcycles in the world. I'm talking about a BSA 650 Spitfire. Most people won't even know what that thing is. Now, no, I just toddle around maybe 70, 80 miles an hour in motorcycles. I don't go bananas anymore, so it really doesn't matter what I drive. I just want something that looks good and doesn't break. Mango Vision says, Scotty, what do you think of Nissan CEO planning on renewability of wasted batteries for electric cars? I heard it's an issue and Tesla's doing nothing about it. I would not believe anything Nissan says. The company's lied forever. You see that one guy who was their CEO and then he escaped Japan in a box and now I guess he's in Lebanon or someplace. He's bad-mouthing them all the time. Now, I mean, the guy should be in prison. Who's he bad-mouthing people, right? But it's not the greatest run company in the world. I really would take everything they say with a gigantic grain of salt. The problem is they're very hard to recycle. Like Toyota, rather than recycle them, they give them to like the Forest Bureau, and even though they're not good for running a car, they've got hundreds and hundreds of volts, and they can use them in like firemen's towers in the national forests, so it can run their lights and computers, because that doesn't use that much power, so they try to do it that way. But they're kind of hard to recycle because everything's kind of all meshed in. It's hard to get it out. It's a very filthy process. Like if you ever see all our computers and stuff ends up being sent to India and places for them taken apart, because it's a real dirty job, and most countries don't want that done in their country because it pollutes so much. Catter says, what's your opinion on a 2022 Honda Insight? Oh, you want my insight on the inside? Okay, yeah, they're well-made vehicles. They're a lower-end car. They're not a fancy car, but they're Hondas. They make very good engines, and they're very good vehicles. If that's the type of vehicle you want, you couldn't do much better. Road test one. Some people don't like the way they ride. A little bit on the rough side. Road test it. If you like it, go ahead and buy one. If you don't buy it. I've had customers buy them and then get rid of them in a few months because they said, I don't like the way they ride. So test them first. Jonathan Bullwinkle says, Scott, what's the most wacko thing you ever found in a car? All right. Ages ago when I moved to Houston, I worked for this guy who ran a place called Rent a Heap Cheap, and he rented junk cars to people for cash. He was the only guy in Houston that would rent cars without a credit card. You had to give him a $200 deposit, right? I was the mechanic there. We'd fix up the cars, clean them up before people would rent them out again, right? And what did I find in the back seat of one? A graduation certificate from a memory school that they'd left in the back seat of the car there. That's got to be the funniest thing I ever found in a car. Some memory school, he got his graduation and then he left it in the back seat. But But rent-a-heap-cheap doesn't exist anymore. You know, that was back in the day. He didn't even have insurance on these cars. You could never do something like that anymore. Rent somebody a car that doesn't have any insurance at all. Somebody getting a wreck, they could have sued him for everything it was worth. Mark and Jane said, would you ever buy a new car? If so, which one? You lose so much buying a brand new car. And I'm a mechanic. I know if they're good or bad. Take my wife's Lexus. I paid $3,000 for a $35,000 car with 65,000 miles. I've seen those things with 500,000 miles on it. There was so much life left, and I was paying less than 10% of the original price. You can't go wrong. You never get a deal on a new car. Never. So I'll never buy a new car. The only way I'd buy a new car was if they actually made it law that you would have to buy electric cars. There weren't any good used ones out there. They got cheap enough, like the Chinese, if they flood the market with their cheap ones. Then maybe I'd think about buying a new car, an electric car, especially like as a sidecar for commuting in the city or something like that. Because some of these Chinese electric cars are only $5,000. So maybe not a bad idea for a second commuter car. And at that price, who would care? Big Time says, I got a Cadillac Escalade. I've been having problems with the stability track light. Makes truck run rough. Can you help? Well, you know, stability traction light shouldn't make your vehicle run incorrectly. If you have a problem in the vehicle, a lot of times the software is automatically made so if your vehicle isn't running right, it turns the stability track off. Have a mechanic like me put a good scan tool, analyze it, run it, and see if there's another problem. Because by itself, a stability track light should not make the vehicle run poorly. You got some other problem too, so start there. A lot of times you got a problem, like say something's wrong with ignition coil, right? And check engine light comes on, then the stability track will often come on. If you fix the igniter and reset the codes, a lot of times stability track light never comes back on because it only comes on when other codes do a lot of times. It's kind of weird software, but that's how the engineers make them. Joe Henry says, Scotty, what do you think of the diesel Toyota engines? Are they reliable? Thinking about buying a Toyota diesel in India. It gets better gas mileage compared to petrol. Generally, Toyota makes really good stuff. They don't sell them in the United States, the diesel engines. But just yesterday, I got an email from a fan in England, and he had a Toyota diesel, and he said it was the biggest pile of crap he ever had, and the thing was breaking down all the time. I've had people say good things, but this guy really hated his. Now, I don't know, maybe he was just a Toyota hater, and he made it up. I don't know. But I've never had personal experience with him, so I can't say. You got to ask guys around you in India to see what their experience is. Now, here's one I can't resist. GM says they have a new business model that's going to turn them into a software company, which they call a potential game changer. Well, you know, with all this electric crap they're going into, they're now getting more into software and selling you software programs for cars, electric vehicles, and all that. All I got to say is, good luck on that one. GM's had nothing but problem with electrical stuff to begin with throughout history. And now they're going to be a software company? Good luck competing with Microsoft and the big boys that really know how to do software. Somewhat failed car company that's on hard times. And of course, you know, all it is just another way for them to try to squeeze money out of their customers. They call it a game changer for delivering subscription services that create recurring revenue. Yeah, that's all they want. They just want recurring revenue. GM turns into a software company, they'll go bankrupt faster than if they didn't. I'll tell you that right now. They failed at many things they did. Now, why would they on earth would they think they're going to jump into the bandwagon of software and think they're going to make a bunch of money on it? They want to turn your car into a device, right? I always laugh at that stuff because if you're going to buy a car, right, and you want to get a fancy infotainment system, they charge you thousands of dollars extra for it, right? You can go and get Androids on Amazon for $150, $200 that blow their things away and install it yourself or pay somebody to install it. Passing the buck on trying to figure out a way to make more money. If they really think they're going to make it as a software company, I'm just laughing at that one. Bill Gates probably is too. If they succeed at doing that, I'll eat my hat. The leather one too. Jonathan Krugmar says, you pretty much believe turbocharged four-cylinder engines are a bad idea, correct? Well, not exactly. The small ones, yes, because they can't take it. Completely throw out diesel turbocharged engines. Diesel engines work by compression, no ignition. They put up a ton of pressure, but they have to be really well made to take that pressure. So a turbo doesn't really bother them that much. Mercedes was the first one to really mass produce their 5-cylinder turbocharged 300 turbo diesels. People loved them. They lasted a million miles, some of them. They can take it. Gasoline cars, not so much. I'm not a fan personally of any turbocharged cars because I like my cars to run forever. I'm not a racing demon anymore. I'm an old guy. I want a car that gets me from here to there and doesn't break down, doesn't burn oil, and gets good gas mileage. Hence, I drive Toyotas and Lexuses. I stick to what works. If I want speed, hey, my wife's Lexus is a V6. The Matrix is a 4-cylinder. My Toyota Celica is a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder. Interesting enough, the Matrix is a 1.8. Probably the best engines Toyota ever made were those 1.8s. Even when they were just pushrod engines, they were still great engines. You know, as a general, I don't like turbochargers because they wear things out faster. And do you want your car to wear out faster? I don't. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.